Hi everyone, welcome to this new video where we're going to be analyzing the company Wipro Limited. It's the number 4 ID services company in India, and we're continuing on our series of analyzing the top 50 companies in India, and today it's Wipro's turn. So this is the second ID services company we are covering after Tech Mahindra. And from the surface of it, things are not looking good. If you look at the industry rank, it's scoring relatively very poorly in the industry rank. It's the last one. In terms of moat analysis, the rating has been given weak. It's given a narrow moat rating. The quarterly scores aren't good. The growth prospect scores aren't good. The guidance is actually -2 to 0 in terms of in constant currency terms for the next quarter, right? So from a quick glance at this company, things don't seem to be going in the right direction, but these are just numbers. These are just hints to what the story of the company really is. But today I'm going to try to break it down, and I'm going to use a 5-point structure to try to understand what the story of Wipro Limited is. And to understand that, first we'll try to look at the industry. So in terms of industry, it's nothing special. The industry is the ID services industry, and it works on a simple labor arbitrage formula. All these enterprise big companies in the US, in Europe, they want to have their ID services, they give their ID services work to Indian companies, which can do it at lower costs because they have the cheaper labor in terms of engineers, and then they give that work to these companies and earn money, right? It's an ID services export business. Um, so this is the industry in general, and there's really nothing much to discuss more about here. But where does Wipro sit in it? So Wipro, as I said, is a pure ID services company. There are no multiple segments. Of course, there's bifurcation in terms of geographical distribution, in terms of the end industries it serves. But to keep things simple, we'll just look at it as an ID services company, right? The second point I want to draw upon is that in this ID services space, it's the number 4 company, right? There's TCS, there's Infosys, and there's HCL Tech. Return ratios and margins are kind of two quantitative ratios which tell us about the quality of a business, right? If you look at the return ratios and margins with its peer sets, right, over the last 5 years, the returns for TCS is the best at 60%, then it drops to Infi at 38, HCL at 29, and Wipro at 18, right? Same story you will see for the margins. TCS is at 27, then there's a drop to 23, then there's a drop to 20, then there's a drop to 19. So Wipro is not only the number 4 ID services company by market cap, it's also the number 4 company by terms of quality. Neither ratios, neither margins, there's nothing. It's actually a structural laggard for the last decade. That's really been the story of Wipro in the last decade. And that is what is also seen in the moat analysis that we have done. There are excess returns of 16 to 17. Just now we saw 19% are above the cost of capital. So there is some excess returns. But there have been the market share has been going away from Wipro over the last decade by its credible attackers, which we just saw, right? The mode source really is switching costs. If Wipro is like deeply integrated into your systems, there is a switching cost in terms of the client might not want to switch to another provider because the learning just for the another company to come in, it might take 12 to 24 months. So really, the only mode source that Wipro might have is switching costs. What has been ruled out is the brand power, network effects, and cost advantages, right? In terms of a moat source, right? We'll dive deeper. Right. So continuing on the moat analysis, I think what we've basically discussed is that the picture isn't looking rosy for Wipro, right? The number 2 point is basically it's the structural laggard in the ID services industry. Is there anything which is good with this company? Let's try to see. As I said, constant currency revenue growth has been in the negatives in the last two past financial years, but we want to focus on something positive. And one point of interest or positive is that the operating margins have been going up from a 16% band to a 17% band under the new management. Okay, that's a positive sign. In terms of large deal wins, 2 quarters saw massive wins. If you see, all the numbers are around 1,000, but Q1 and Q2 of this financial year, the large deal total value was 2,666 and 2,853. This was massive, right? So definitely, and I'm seeing this across ID services companies that the deal wins have come through in this year, whether that may be for TCS, whether that may be for Tech Mahindra, right? However, the customer count has gone down in terms of 100 million tier clients. From 22 2 years back, it's at 16. Attrition is okay, that's fine. But, as I said, growth hasn't been there. The client count has gone down. But, some things are positive in terms of the margins have gone up. There seems to be some sort of operational improvement which is being seen. In a declining revenue environment, which is impressive, and the large deal wins are coming through. So that's point three, that maybe, you know, most of the narrative, the story is kind of a declining negative story, but there seems to be a few hopes for the company. And then when we come to future growth, what's the future looking like? What is this new management, the new CEO trying to do? And really, the story is not a new story. I think every ID services company, whether you go to TCS, they're all trying to get into this AI race. They're all trying to leverage AI, introduce AI in their workflows, and trying to reposition themselves as an AI services company. What has Wipro done specifically for this is that they've done a Harman digital services acquisition, right? So this is bringing in a lot of engineers who can be adds engineering and AI capabilities to reposition themselves as an AI services offerings. They're also doing another acquisition of, I think Mindfield it's called, which has a Olam client, which is a $1 billion deal spread over multiple years, right? So with these two inorganic growth prospects playing out, what is happening is this is adding to the narrative that this company is trying to reposition itself as an AI services company. This is great news. The only bad thing about this good news is that this is nothing unique. Every AI services, every ID services company is trying to do this transition, this pivot. So the base case scenario, 12 to 15%, I don't know, but in constant currency terms, looks like 2%, 4% kind of growth in the next few years. And that's the guidance history. What's very unique about this company is every quarter guidance is given by this company, and the credibility is, it's credible, right? It's always landing in that range which the company is given. So the management can be trusted to kind of execute this pivot story, which is playing out with every ID services company, right? However, for next quarter, the guidance is of -2 to 0% constant in terms of constant currency. So we will have to monitor, the next 4 quarters are about monitoring this company and whether this pivot story is playing out, whether the margins, whether the growth, the revenue growth turns from red to green. Those are the things to track for this company. right? Yeah, that's all for this quick analysis.